Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rain.
So, welcome to Vialet Studio. Thank you for joining us today. I have with me here today Miss Julie, and I got to meet her very recently at the center. She's going to be offering classes and programs in her center that I'm really, really excited about. In fact, I signed up for her first one today. Julie, share with us, who are you? And what has been your journey to where you are today? Because I think people love to hear about people's spiritual journey and how they connect and how they find their way.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And it's always such a tough question, right? Because as far as who are you? Because I feel like there's so many pieces to who I am. So maybe it's easier to start with the journey piece. Years ago, I started off as a teacher, straight out of college and grad school. And kind of fast forward a bit, the journey led me to a marriage and having kids. And pretty soon after, realizing there was something not quite right on my path, and kind of probably sparked the spiritual awakening piece in me. And it's also when I became involved in various healing avenues and stumbled across a store. It was a coffee shop, actually. I was looking for a latte, and the person who greeted me asked if I was here for the free healing workshop and our aura cleansing. And I was like, nope, but tell me about that. And before I knew it, I was on a journey of learning how to heal myself through clairvoyance and other reading. And then this led into work with Feng Shui, and I became a certified Feng Shui consultant as I started working in the spaces in my home. And then also during this time, I made the decision to leave my marriage. And it was a really challenging decision with two little ones, but it was one of those places that it just wasn't right. It wasn't right on my path. And I made the really difficult decision to do that and haven't looked back since. And it was then during that time I began to expand what I wanted to do with myself. And it was very clear I didn't want to go back to teaching. So I started playing in the energy world and the Feng Shui arena and began a business as a professional organizer. Including all of those aspects that slowly began to grow and become part of the business. And it was, again, one of those things where I was just like, oh, I'm good at this. So why not give it a try? And it was the beginning of the recession, and really hard to get a job as a single mom and two little ones at that point. So I started my business for the very first time. And then over the years, it sort of evolved. I started working with various healers and mentors and started learning Reiki type healing and crystal healing. I started teaching meditation classes, and then it sort of just became an amalgam of my own brand of working with clients. And I was doing all of that for a long time. And then when I began working deeper with people, I began to realize that a lot of trauma would come up when talking to folks, whether they were on the healing table or just chatting with them before, or even when I was in their homes doing Feng Shui, and started to get this feeling of how much people needed more support than I was able to offer. I felt like I didn't have quite the training. And so it led me back to graduate school right around the time I turned 40. And I started a transpersonal art therapy program at Naropa and graduated 3 years later with a degree in clinical mental health counseling and transpersonal psychology, the concentration in transpersonal art therapy. So all of these things have just been kind of meshed in as part of my tool belt. And I decided after grad school to take a job in the community working in mental health. So I'm currently doing that up in Westminster, Broomfield actually, and of shifting into a family therapist position. And that is part of what I do, but the bigger part is my transpersonal coaching work, which is basically now become the culmination of all of the things, all of the tools that I've gathered over the years. And it's been my journey and desire to work with people who are going through life transitions. So that can be starting over, like the many times I clearly have started over. So it could be a new job, it could be a new relationship, the end of a relationship, moving, new family, just feeling stuck anywhere where you feel, or someone might feel like they might need to make a change but can't quite put their finger on it. And all of these aspects with meditation, feng shui, healing, psychology, counseling, all of it kind of batched together to help people really rediscover who they are when they're in that place of feeling stuck and lost, and then what to do. How do we start the next chapter? And I guess that sort of rambled on to what I'm doing with people rather than who I am. And so to continue with that, I'm basically doing all of those things. And I live in Westminster, Colorado with my two now teenage daughters. I have a sophomore and a senior, and my very fluffy kitty and pup. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be doing this work. And it's been a long journey and keeps going and evolving and changing.
Well, I love that. What an amazing introduction. Because when we meet people, change is hard. People have a hard time just with change in general. I used to work in the corporate world and change management, and people would go, oh, it's easy. It's not easy. People have a hard time through change. And, being in the world today with COVID, it brings up a lot of that anxiety and fear of what's next. What do I do? Because it's forcing us to change. It wasn't even our decision to shift and change. It's kind of being forced a little bit and pushed. And so people have a hard time with that, and they shut down and they get stuck and they get lost, and they don't know how to take that first step. So having all those amazing tools to be able to share with somebody, to tell them it's okay, they're not alone. Everybody feels that, right? When they have to go through change. I think it's amazing. I loved your journey. I love hearing the process.
Yeah, and it's something, like I said, I can really relate to, because I've made the choice to change, and I've had to change when it's been thrust upon me. And so, like you just said, right now, so many people are facing so many challenges and decisions of what needs to happen, and also new realities. And sometimes it's also getting to this place where it's like, I'm not living the life that I want to live. And I think COVID has done that for a lot of people, where they've been forced to really look inward, especially during that quarantine time, look at who their partners are, who their social circles are, and what is serving, what is not serving, and what does need to change. And yeah, and it's scary. I think what you said, just, it's whether you're flexible or not, it's hard to take that leap and know where to go and what to do.
It is hard, and I have this feeling, or this gut feeling, that at some point everyone's going to have to reboot their lives a little bit, because they're either still in isolation or trying to figure out what's next. It's kind of like pulling people back out into life again. And how do we do that safely? What does that look like? My HR background, when we'd have somebody injured on a job that went on workers' comp, the most difficult part was getting them back in motion again, getting them back to work, getting them motivated to move forward versus sitting at home. we're going to face the same challenges of how do we get people back out again? How do we get them to feel safe again? What is next for all these people? Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety I'm noticing with my clients, of anxiousness around what to do, but also who am I in the world? How do I step out into the world safely? Is it safe for me to start doing things again? Schools are starting to open up. My 2 teens are going to be going back a couple days a week. There's a lot of unanswered questions even with that, and what that's going to look like. It's a lot for people to take in.
It is a lot. And there's some people that were fortunate enough to work from home that still aren't back full-time working in an office. And what does that transition to? There are people that couldn't work, and my heart and prayers go out to them every day that are trying to figure out what's next. I don't think anybody's been untouched by this, whether it's, hey, I'm at home working, or hey, my whole life got turned upside down. I think everybody got touched by this on different levels. And how do we help people, right? How do we get them going again? How do we start that movement forward? And so I love that you have a lot of tools to kind of help people to go, okay, maybe it's not a new job, maybe it's not a new relationship, maybe it's just my life. What do I do next, right? How do I get going again?
Yeah, and the tools are great because not every piece is for everyone. So it's kind of like this smorgasbord of picking what works for you. And part of moving out of this stuckness is to really help people reclaim who they are. And that's what I think gets lost in a lot of these things, that the existential crisis starts to kind of pop in, like who am I if I don't have this job? Who am I if this needs to change? And there's this sort of remembering that needs to happen of who you are at the core. And then if your soul has evolved, what shifts and changes need to make to help with that evolution and to move forward. And it can take a lot of exploration, journaling, you name it, healing, all of these aspects that someone might need to go through to really figure out next steps to take.
Yeah, and discovery, and you're not alone. I want people listening to know you're not alone. The feelings that you're having today, the feelings that are coming up, you're not alone. Your neighbors, your community, everybody's feeling it. And we all need help sometimes of what's the next step? What can I do to move this energy again? What do I need to be thinking about? What are your dreams? What are your desires? Are you aligned with some of that, or are you accepting just kind of your life, and do you want more? And those are big, great questions. But I was looking at your website before this, and I love the testimonials of excitement that you've been able to give your clients, because they're like, oh, I have something, I have momentum, I've got steps to take. In that piece. And that's awesome, because I think a lot of people need that. So Julie, what are some simple steps if somebody's listening right now and they're just stuck, they don't know what to do? What recommendations or what guidance would you provide people that are just like, hey, some simple steps that I can do?
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of writing. And I know that's not for everyone, but sometimes it is a way to dump your thoughts. And that's one of the first pieces, that we get very jumbled up in our thoughts and confusion of what's next? What am I really thinking? And looking at these changes or these pieces of your life that you're not sure if they fit anymore, and starting to examine, like, whose voice are you hearing when you hear this isn't okay? So maybe it's a family member. Maybe you were in this life, and this is how I was, by the way. It came from a Jewish family that was, you will marry someone who will take care of you. And that was the message. You will have 2 kids, be a stay-at-home mom. And I got to that place where it was like, no, this is not my life I'm living someone else's. So really teasing apart, whose life are you living right now? And maybe it's just social constructs from society. And maybe it is what you chose and what you really wanted, but that's shifted. So being able to start to really tease apart those pieces in writing can be super helpful. And it doesn't have to be like a grammatically perfect story. It's just scribble even, and asking yourself, closing your eyes before you start, what do I need to know right now? What do I need to tell myself? What does my higher self need me to know? And see what happens. Everybody has this intuitive ability. It's just whether or not you're used to using it or not. And so starting to tap into that and really listen, you do have the inner wisdom. Everybody has this wisdom. So it's really starting to tap into it and starting to find some answers. And that's doesn't mean you have to move or do anything, but just information. Sorry to
just information. No, I love that. Just starting with information. And the key thing for all of us to remember is don't connect to your head. Our head has all this logic and ego and lots of information going on. Connect to your heart. What is your heart telling you? What is your heart saying to you? Because I think that's a really important place to tap into, is our heart space and what we're feeling and what's coming from there, because I think that's our real guidepost on moving forward, right? Is to be able to do that. But I love writing stuff down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be, dumping information or doodling and thinking or finding a space, painting, coloring. Coloring's an amazing way to free up your mind of all the chatter and just be with yourself for a little bit, are great ways to kind of slow all this down and come with it.
Yeah. Anything creative, and that what you just said was beautiful, because that was going to be my next comment. It's bringing in the creativity, because when we are doing something creative, we are out of our heads. We are out of that space that is the analytical thinking space, and can help you really be in that flow. And you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be good at something. Creativity can show up in cooking. It can show up, and like you said, like coloring books are my favorite. Like, it's just the mindless, soothing experience, and letting yourself start to feel and bringing in those dreams. That's the next piece I was going to also say is starting to dream, and dream big. Like, no matter how ridiculous it might sound, what do you want your life to look like in 5 years? If you could do anything, if you could be anyone, what would that look like? And that could be something someone might write about. They could collage, cut out images. But it's not, the point is to not censor anything, and just start to let these dreams sink in, because that is the big piece, right? That we always, that can't happen. That's not going to be a thing. I couldn't do that. That won't make me enough money. So all of these quick analytical brain pieces that come in that shut us down, this is a moment to just shut those off and just see what arrives, what comes out.
I love that. It's just being open and allowing yourself the space and time. And we don't always do that really well. So it's always good when we take care of ourselves and think about ourselves for a little bit. So talk to us a little bit about your class that you're offering later in October at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. What is that class about? And what will people gain from going to that?
Yeah, so this class is all about how to survive and thrive, as the title says, through a life transition. So this is, again, any life transition that you might not even be there yet, but thinking about making a change and not knowing where to start. So it's really the first part of the class is all about validation and just really letting you see that you're not broken, even though you might feel that way right now. One of my favorite things in positive psychology is the idea of there's nothing to fix, there's nothing broken. It's just something needs to shift, something needs to change, perhaps something maybe isn't right, but there's nothing that needs to be fixed. So that's really the first step, is having that acknowledgement. And then what are the things that keep us stuck? So helping break through some of these barriers of stuckness. And then the third part is about a few simple steps to take to really reclaim your life back, and how you can remember your inner warrior, your inner badass, however you want to say it, just to start taking these steps. Because when we do feel stuck, we feel about this big, and there is a forgetting that there is this inner strength that everyone has. So it's really going to help you tap into that part of yourself that could potentially be lost at the moment, or just dampered down a little bit. And really walking away from this class with some next steps to take, in whether it is thinking about making a transition, or you're already there and you're not sure where to go.
I love that. I love that. So check out our events calendar for Julie's class. I'm really excited to have her at the center. I did sign up. I'll also include in this video her website where you can contact her, see all the beautiful things that she offers. She has some wonderful testimonials and who she is in her journey even more. I love that. So check that out. Julie, thanks so much for being part of the show and coming on. And I look forward to seeing you on the show again in the future. As you come and share with us some of your tools and things that you offer. We'll be really happy to hear more about those.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to teach this class. And yes, I would love to come back and chat more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching today. Vialet Studio. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts in Littleton. Have an amazing day.